was dropping its statewide mask mandate effective immediately. When elementary school students in one classroom heard this, well, it's clear that this was an announcement that was long overdue.
Starting tomorrow, we don't have to wear masks anymore. Is anybody excited?
Their joy is our joy. Children, we celebrate with you. But still, there are some officials that are sticking to their guns, including Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, who said yesterday she will not drop the mask mandate in city schools, stressing her city's efforts to keep closing the gap for vaccinations. Now, teachers' unions have been one of the biggest proponents of mask mandates around the country. Randy Weingarten is the head of the National Teachers Union, and here's what she said about what needs to happen before we end mask mandates in schools.
What Dr. McBride just told us about masks not particularly being effective for children, what's the argument against taking off masks in schools?
Well, the argument is that let me just say this. I am in favor of an off-ramp on masks.
Right.
The real issue becomes, is the spread low enough so that there's no dissemination or transmission in schools?
Of course, we cannot guarantee that there will be no dissemination or transmission in schools, just like we can't guarantee there will be no dissemination or transmission of any other virus in schools. We've never been able to make that promise, and we never will. In another interview, she seemed to acknowledge that.
The issue becomes, how do we make sure that the entire community in a school feels safe and welcome? And I don't think that when you get to COVID, there's no risk. The real issue becomes, how do we make sure that everybody feels safe?
She's correct, of course, that there is no risk. Life has never been risk-free. But how do we get to the point where everyone feels safe? Well, of course, we don't. In a country of 320 plus million people, you're never going to get to a situation where everyone feels safe, because feeling safe is a subjective thing and may not have anything to do with the information. The best we can do is expect to eliminate avoidable, unnecessary risks and then live our lives. While masks have long been said to be the way to keep us safe, they are being called into question by the fact that those who are insisting most aggressively that masks are essential have been caught repeatedly, in some cases, not wearing masks in circumstances where they required others to do so. This front page image from the New York Post shows Stacey Abrams being photographed maskless in classrooms filled with masked students. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti took photographs maskless at a football game when his executive orders required everyone at the game to be masked. He later said he was holding his breath during the photos. They are far from the only ones. Now, across the country, the momentum is shifting. Governors and local governments are lifting COVID mandates. Schools are lifting mask requirements. And at least one member of Congress thinks it's time for education across the country to get back to normal. Congresswoman Mary Miller of Illinois last month introduced two bills, the Make Our Schools Great Again Act, which would prohibit federal funds from going to schools that impose mask or COVID shot mandates, and the Liberating Learning for Kids Act, which would prohibit federal funding from going to schools that do not provide in-person instruction for all students. She joins me now to talk about how our country needs to be moving forward for the sake of our kids. Congresswoman Miller, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. It's great to be here. And I just want to tell you that I'm an expert on children. I have 7 children, and I can't think of enough adjectives to describe how upset I am that we have continued to exploit this virus at the expense of our children. This is just, it's outrageous, it's sad, and what we're seeing is the Democrats, these leftists, don't want to lift these restrictions. they're using it for political purposes and exploiting our children. I'm very angry over it.
Congresswoman, I think you speak for a lot of people when you say that. Now, in your state of Illinois, Governor Pritzker has removed the mask mandates everywhere except the schools. Why do you think that is?
Well, he's true to form. He, is sticking to this mask mandate for children, and he is such a hypocrite multiple times, including recently. He has been seen shoulder to shoulder with our school children without a mask on. So he's forcing them to have it on. And it makes no sense legally or scientifically. Just the ultimate hypocrite. And I don't know, it upsets me so much. I'm a strong advocate for parental rights. Parents should be allowed to decide. And I just want to encourage regular people to rise up. Parents need to rise up and stand up for their children. And one of the things we can do is be very encouraged by what's happened in our country when parents stood up to, like in Virginia, when they were trying to, even the FBI trying to silence and intimidate parents. Parents stayed strong in the defense of their children, and I want to encourage Illinois parents to do the same.
That's a great point. It is time, and we are seeing evidence of parents standing up for themselves and for their kids at the federal level, but especially at the local level, where, frankly, parents can have more of an impact. Now, you've proposed two pieces of legislation to cut off funding from public schools that do not lift these mandates or do not actually bring students together in person. What kind of response are you getting from your fellow members of Congress? Do you get the sense that they are ready to move on?
It's super partisan. The Democrats are still all about the shutdowns and the masks and vaccine mandates. I mean, even in D.C., the mayor has, requiring vaccine passports to go into restaurants or gyms. But the Republicans all want this lifted, and it's just like the Republican states have been free for a long time.
Now, Congresswoman, yesterday, President Biden had a one-on-one interview with NBC Nightly News' Lester Holtz. I want to play you a clip of that and then get your response.
Okay.
Omicron and all the variants have had a profound impact on the psyche of the American people. I mean, they've had a profound impact. For example, think of all the kids who didn't get to go to a prom, all the graduations that didn't occur, all the things it's had a real psychological impact.
Now, what's your reaction to... Go ahead.
He has no credibility anymore. The very things that he's responsible for, like the border, the withdrawal in Afghanistan, inflation, he has created absolute crises out of those. Our energy independence, dismantling that. He is an utter failure at everything. And then he wants to come in and take total control over our lives, over our health, our bodies, take over, the role of parents. He's incompetent. I'm part of the group calling for his impeachment.
Now, he talks about the psychological impact. And do you think that the virus has had a greater impact psychologically on children, or is it the response to the virus that's had a greater impact?
Absolutely, it's the response. And, I was on board for the first, couple weeks. We didn't know what it was. But then as we started seeing a little bit more what it was and that there were certain risk groups, instead of us responding to that and looking for treatments, the Democrats and different people like Fauci and some of them took advantage of the situation and, just to continue to take our freedoms away from us. And, God created us to be free people and to be relational. And they have exploited this virus to go after both of those things.
But I know for sure that a lot of people feel that way. Do you believe we're at the end of the government responses to COVID?
Well, I do think we are because the Democrats are worried about the next election, and they know that they're on the wrong side of public opinion on this. And people are way past time that they want to get back to normal. And our kids have lost 3 school years. It's ridiculous. But what I'm afraid of is that this is a test run for them, and they're going to try it again. And I just can't stress enough to the American people that we need to stand up, speak up, just like the truckers in Canada. They are amazing. We need to push back and stick together because there's power in numbers, and elections have consequences.
That is exactly right. Elections do have consequences. And frankly, we are experiencing that, and we continue to. And every day of our lives, we experience that. Congresswoman Mary Miller, thank you so much for your time, for your courage, and for standing up for children, especially the 7 that you have. Congratulations on that. We look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.